What's going on, guys? Quinn69 here. How you guys doing today? As you can see, today I'm going to be bringing you guys the updated Uliana 6-piece guide. This is going to be the go-to build for monk solo leaderboards, and it's potentially going to be the best damage dealing setup for fishing, okay, keyword fishing, for the rank 1 4-man Greater Rift, as monks have a very, very high damage potential under like very particular circumstances. We're going to go over that in the guide, so it's going to be kind of complicated, and I'm going to try my best to explain to you guys how you guys can fully abuse your Uliana's monk and how you can do tons and tons of damage. But let's get into it. You're still using the U6 set, so if you guys don't know how to use the set, all you do, the basic gameplay strategy is to just go 1, 2, 3, bang. Your third hit of your spirit generator will apply exploding palm to everything it hits, right? And then your 6-piece Uliana set makes your 7-sided striker detonate exploding palms, and then obviously because you're using Gundo gear braces, your detonations spread exploding palm to everything. So you can see there's EPs everywhere. So the basic rotation for this build is to punch to get your EPs up, then 7-sided strike on cooldown whenever it's up. Just 7-sided strike, 7-sided strike. Every second you can 7-sided strike, you should be using it. And then obviously you're using focus and restraint rings. That means you have to generate at least every 5 seconds. So you have to just punch one guy every 5 seconds. You don't need to be spreading EPs all the time, because EPs will generally be up. You just have to punch once every 5 seconds to maintain that, and then every time you 7-sided strike, it obviously procs your restraint. And you don't want to die. You don't want to die. Dying's pretty bad. So avoid death as much as possible, especially if you're playing a hardcore character. To do that, so on top of pressing your punch every 5 seconds and 7-sided striking on cooldown, I highly suggest you dash every time. You've got enough cooldown reduction if you're properly geared to dash after every 7-sided strike, and then also to activate your mantra. I don't know if I'm doing it right now. It's probably why I died. As you can see, I'm just kind of chilling out, not really activating my mantra that much. You should, assuming that you're getting a few punches off, you should be able to easily activate your mantra on cooldown. So that's the basic setup. Now we're going to talk about snapshotting. As you can see here, this is a power pylon. This is going to be a great example basically to demonstrate how the mechanics of exploding palm work. This is an old trick from back in Season 2, where basically, some Wuku monks, such as myself and Hax, we were basically getting power pylons, applying EPs, and then spreading them, and then not letting the EPs die, and you could effectively make the power pylon last anywhere up to like 2-3 minutes if you were lucky. But now with the Ulianas, you can consistently have the bonus of power pylon for the entire map. So if you get a single floor rift, you can have power pylon. If you get the power pylon at the very beginning of the rift, you can effectively have a power pylon, so you can have 400% damage for the entire rift. So obviously for solo pushing or for pushing 4-mans, this is a game changer. This makes monks, it takes our damage from mediocre to very strong, if not the best damage out, the strongest damage dealers in the game. Obviously it requires a huge amount of RNG to get a power pylon in every rift, and you couldn't use this build as a consistent. You could not use this method really as a consistent way to get a ton of damage. But in the extreme scenarios when you're pushing, this is going to be a very viable strategy. And I would not be surprised if you see the top 4-man, 3-man, 2-mans, and the top clears come from monks just because of this mechanic. And this has been here since Season 2. We told Blizzard and the PCR about how it was snapshotted, and basically they've just left it in. So obviously they want us to use it. So anyway, let's go over how it works. When you apply an EP, guys, when you apply an EP, it takes a look at whatever damage buffs you have at the time, and it snapshots into the exploding palm. So right here, as you can see here, I went 1, 2, 3, bang, and applied a bunch of EPs. They were all power pylon EPs, right? So they all had power pylon buff built into those EPs. I 7-sided striked. It spreaded those then went ahead and spreaded those power pylon EPs. So every single exploding palm on my screen right now is power pylon. And unless I leave those for 9 seconds and let them just drop the buff, or I manually overwrite those EPs with my right click, so it's actually manually overwriting it without the power pylon buff, or with different buffs, for instance, that's the only way you can get rid of them. As long as I constantly refresh these exploding palms by using 7-sided strike, or going 1, 2, 3 bang, it will never, ever, ever run out. You can effectively just keep these. I could, if say these had infinite health and I could never kill them, I could just sit here, seven-sided striking them for days, and they would never, ever run out of, you know, power pile and juice. But what you have to be careful is, you know, once the power pylon buff expires, if you then apply its EPs, you know, without the power pylon buff, that will be a non-power pylon EP. And if you spread that, okay, then you risk killing all your power pylon EPs off and basically having no juice, no power juice. So once this drops off, once my buff here drops off, boom, I can no longer manually apply EPs anymore. So if I was to apply a new set of EPs on a fresh set of mobs, so mobs that didn't already have exploding palm on them, it would then be non-power pylon. And if I spread that, then I don't know which, they're all mixed up, and you don't know which ones have power, which ones don't. So you'll see here, once I've got this up, I will never attack new monsters. These monsters over here, I would never go over there and punch those guys again. The only way I'm going to spread my EP is by using 7-sided strike. I'm forcing the explosion to then hit these old mobs, and they then have power pylon on them, and then you can basically drag them around the map and fully use them. You can see me just walk around and just punch one time to proc my focus. I'm just walking around. I'm being really careful not to punch 3 times, and I'm just basically walking around and I'm just spreading this power pylon EP through that entire map. I'm just gonna drag everything back, and you can see all my EPs. I haven't got power pylon buff, and my exploding palms are still going for 5 billion. If you do this with a huge assimilation stack and with Mythic Rhythm, which I'm about to go over, it's going to go for a lot. I had my EPs snapshotted at about 16 billion at one point, so for example. So yeah, you can get some really filthy snapshots, and you don't just need a power pylon. You can do it with other buffs such as Mythic Rhythm, assimilation, momentum, determination, any sort of additive damage bonus. But there's a trick to it. Let's kind of go over, let's go back here, and let's go over how I actually did what I did here. So there's a mechanic, so if you guys don't know, Mythic Rhythm, the way that Mythic Rhythm works, after you do 1, 2, 3 on your spirit generators, you gain a buff, right? You gain a buff, which then increases your next spirit spending ability by 40%. And this is a multiplicative effect. This increases your damage output by 40%. Pure and simple. It's a multiplier. It's not stacking like power pylon is with assimilation and momentum and determination. It's a multiplicative effect. It's like Bane of the Trapped. It's like having another Bane of the Trapped equipped effectively. But there's a trick to this, and this is a key to like really min-maxing and really getting a lot of damage. This is something we weren't doing back in the day. This is a new kind of meta sort of thing that a lot of the European monks started doing, and we've just basically taken that strategy and we're using it ourselves now. But it's shifty as hell. Obviously, you know, with the Uliana 2-piece set, when you go 1, 2, 3, bang, it applies Exploding Palm, which is technically a spender. But Mythic Rhythm, alright, the way that Mythic Rhythm works, this is really confusing, so you just listen carefully. Listen carefully, boys. When you go 1, 2, 3, bang, when it applies those EPs, so you see here, if I go back, you see here, if I go back, so I go on here, and I'm going to go, so right now, I go on, and I go 1, 2, 3, and I've just done my 3 attack. That is just from the Spirit Arena. Only one of these targets have Mythic Rhythm EP on it, and I have no idea which target has Mythic Rhythm on there. And so trying to spread that Mythic Rhythm EP and snapshot that particular Exploding Palm is impossible. I mean, you could just luck out and randomly hit it, but it's impossible. But there is a method as to how you do it. So what you do is you go 1, 2, 3, bang, spread your EPs, you 7-sided strike, make sure everything around you is then covered in Exploding Palm, so there's nothing that is not covered in Exploding Palm. And basically the way it works is, if you then go 1, 2, 3 again, and every single target around you has Exploding Palm already, the Mythic Rhythm charge will apply to your character. But you cannot see this buff. You just have to know that you did not apply a new EP when you did the third hit. So it's really quite tricky to keep track of. So you need to make sure if there's illusionist around or there's monsters being summoned into the pack that you're attacking, you need to be really sure that you attacked a bunch of monsters that already had EPs. So boom, I just did my 3 set here, and as you can see, so now I've just done my 1, 2, 3 again, and everything around and the monster pack has EP, so I'm going to have the Mythic Rhythm charge, and I'm now going to dash off, and I'm going to manually apply an EP on this target right here. So now this target here I know has Mythic Rhythm. It has, so this target, I should use my cursor rather than pointing on the screen. This target here has Mythic Rhythm, and it also has the Power Pollen with Assimilation stacked into it. So this is even more powerful than, so it's 40%, and it's also got 12 times 5 additive damage on top of that. And you're going to see here, I'm going to try and 7-sided strike and spread it, but my bad EPs are getting mixed in with my good EP, and I don't like it. I've got only a few seconds left on my Power Pollen left. I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my god, I need to get Mythic Rhythm up. Like, I'm panicking right now. I'm like, please, 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 can I get Mythic Rhythm up? If you actually watch the video, you're going to see me, if you can go back. This is my rank 1 world 72 clear, so you can go back and you actually watch it if you want. So now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to spread the EPs. I'm going to 7-sided strike to apply them all. I'm going to attack 1, 2, 3 times here. Boom. I just did my 3rd attack. I'm dashing off because I've got my Mythic Rhythm stack. I've got like 2 seconds left on my Power Pylon. I also have an Assimilation stack. You just can't see it. And now I'm going to apply this to that Phase Beast. So this Phase Beast right here has the Mythic Rhythm. It has the Power Pylon. It has the Assimilation. And I'm like, oh my god, I need to spread this thing. And I'm looking at that Phase Beast. And I'm watching it. I'm letting it chase me. I'm letting it chase me. And I'm spreading it. And now I know all of these EPs on this area of the screen. And now Mythic Rhythm, Assimilation, Power Pylon EP snapshotted. If that makes sense. Hopefully you guys took this all in, because I'm not going to go over this again. You can actually look down below. I've got a link. Basically, who's his name? Davok has written out all the mechanics of EPs, and you can go through in depth and you know, work out the mechanics yourselves. But this is the TLDR version, and it's pretty long. This is the TLDR version on how to snapshot EP. And yeah, now I'm going to just keep these Mythic Rhythm, Assimilation, Power Pylon EPs. I'm just going to spread them. I'm going to spread them, and I've spread them for days. And I'm going to trail them around this map, and we're going to blast our boy this whole rift with like crazy damage EPs. And this is how you snapshot EPs. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Now I'm going to continue going over actually the skills, the gear, and all that stuff. But let's go over the gear and skills. As you can see here, it's very similar to the old build. There's only one major change in the cube here. We are now using Convention of Elements instead of Broken Promises. This is due to the fact that this build is more consistent, and if you get really high density maps with low health monsters, you actually get a lot more value from on-death explosions by timing a big juicy pack with a convention proc. It's very, very, very powerful. A question that you guys are going to ask a lot is, can you snapshot Convention of Elements into your Exploding Palms? And that is a no. Convention of Elements does not snapshot. It is dynamic, so you have to, it'll basically, your explosions with the cold proc will go for a lot more, but you cannot snapshot it. It is completely dynamic, as is Focus and Restraint. Those buffs are completely dynamic, so you do not have to worry about snapshotting those into the EPs, if you're wondering. We're also using Spirit Guards, so that's a multiplicative 40% damage reduction. That is up the entire time, as you should be punching 24/7. Like, the gameplay is you're basically holding down this attack 24/7 and you're just dashing around and not dying. And then we're using Flow of Eternity, reduces the cooldown of 7-sided strike by 60%. Obviously 7-sided strike is the thing that's dealing damage because it's setting off the Exploding Palms. And, it's a huge damage increase, if not the biggest damage increase that you can get from any weapon effect. We are then using the Lion's Claw. So the stats you want on it, basically Dex, Vit, 10 cooldown reduction, so perfectly rolled here. And we're using a Fist of Aztariq. You want Dex, Vit, cooldown reduction, and you're looking for a really high Exploding Palm affix down the bottom there. Obviously, this increases the damage, it doubles the damage of Exploding Palm. It's a multiplicative effect. Really powerful, as does Lion's Claw. It doubles the amount of 7-sided strikes you can do, so it doubles your damage output. Both crazy weapons with this build. We're then using Uliana's boots. A thing of note on these boots here, you want to have 15 Exploding Palm damage, and you want these rolls exactly what I have here. You prefer physical resist as your favorite resist, though. As far as pants go, these are the exact rolls you want. So these are Uliana's pants. You want Dex, Vet, Life Regen, and Physical Res. You can also get Life on Kill instead of Monster as a secondary, so Life on Kill there. Your belt, you're looking for these exact rolls again. You're looking for secondary res, you're looking for dex, vit, life percent, and life regen. As far as your chest goes, I don't know if this is the best setup. You can go dexterity, vitality, and elite reduction. It gives you a lot more toughness and allows you to survive a lot more. This is still the highest recovery setup, but it's kind of, you can get one shot by things like laser beams and stuff. So yeah, this is just a very heavy recovery setup. We are then using Uliana's helmet. You want dex, crit chance, and exploding palm damage. Dex, vit, EP damage is also viable, but you prefer to have trifecta, damage stats there on the weapon. Make sure you have secondary resistances, and put a white gem in the helmet. We are then using Uliana's strength, so the shoulder pads. Dex, vit, or resist, and 8% cooldown reduction are the best rolls here. A lot of you guys are wondering why aren't using 7-sided strike. It's because 7-sided strike virtually does no damage inside of the rift. It's a very slight damage increase, single target, but yeah, I'm not using 7-sided strike on either my chest or my shoulders. It really has no value. As far as gloves go, these are the exact rolls you're looking for. Cooldown reduction, crit chance, crit damage, dexterity, and secondary resistances, preferring physical resist obviously. We then are using focus and restraint. The perfectly rolled focus would be 6 crit, 50 crit damage, 8 cooldown reduction. So that's with no dexterity. But the primary stats you want are crit chance and cooldown reduction. And so those are what you're going to look for. So as you can see here, my rings aren't perfect. It's just 7 CDR, 6 crit, and then yeah, we're good. And then restraint, same deal. You do want trifecta crit stats, but obviously I don't have that, so I've gone with the cooldown reduction and the 6 crit. And then necklace, you're going to want a Hellfire amulet. This is a very, very good one here. I got really lucky on this craft. It's got quite possibly the best passive. It can be used across the board for speed builds, any other builds. And this is what you're looking for. You're looking for cold damage with crit damage and crit chance. That's the dream. Obviously, crit dex or crit chance, cold damage dex. That's okay as well. Obviously, looking for secondary resist there as well. That pretty much covers it for the gear. As far as skills go, we are using Way of the 100 Fists Assimilation. This is obviously very important as we're going to be using this to snapshot EPs. So if you missed that, go back to the start of the video and watch that again. We're using Exploding Palm, Impending Doom. This rune here does double the damage of any other Exploding Palm. So it's mandatory. You cannot go without this. That's why we play cold. 7-sided strike, sustained attack. It's basically 7-sided strike doesn't do any damage anyway. This one has the lowest cooldown. There's no other choices in 7-sided strike. This is the best rune. Mantra of Salvation, Agility. This gives us 35% dodge, which is a huge effective health point increase because you can effectively dodge, on average, a lot of things. It's really, really powerful. On top of that, you can activate the mantra for an extra, 20% aura resistances. Very, very powerful mantra. If you're playing with another monk, you obviously can switch this out to, Mantra of Conviction, Intimidation, or like if you're doing speed runs, Annihilation, or you can go Mantra of Healing, Sustenance. There's a bunch of mantras you can do, but primarily Mantra of Salvation, Agility. We're using Dashing Strike, Blinding Speed for the 40% dodge chance. This obviously has a lot of synergy here with the Agility rune. It gives you crazy dodge, means you can mitigate a ton of damage, and that should be up the whole time. You've easily got enough cooldown reduction if you've geared properly to basically spam this on cooldown after every 7-sided strike. We are then using Epiphany Desert Shroud. This has about 95% uptime. There's a short downtime period where you can get caught off guard and just one-shot insta-gibbed. But generally, you're just going to be using this 24/7 in greater rifts, and this gives you a 50% damage reduction. It also gives you consistent spirit regen, so you don't need to be sitting there punching all the time to get spirit back, so it's very powerful. As far as passive skills go, we are using Harmony, so this is a very, very powerful defensive talent. It's mandatory. This is why you gear with secondary resistances, because it converts your secondary res into all res, and it gives you a very, very, it's just insane. Mythic Rhythm, obviously this is what we're using to snapshot for multiplicative damage increase. It's really, really powerful. If you're just doing speed runs, if you're just doing speed runs and you're not trying to snapshot Mythic Rhythm, you can obviously change this out to something like Momentum or Determination. But if you're doing greater rifts and you're going for those big juicy snapshots, obviously Mythic Rhythm is going to be really powerful. Near-death experience, just hands down the best defensive, proc in the game. 60-second cooldown, and it basically avoids a one-shot. And there's tons of one-shots in this game. There's so many, and this is a huge. I used to be skeptical whether or not this is worth it or not, but no, I swear by this thing. Near-death experience, I love this talent. It honestly saves you so many deaths. Really, really powerful defensive talent. The last talent here, I'm using Guard. So obviously, because I'm using a health, I've got basically you would be using Beacon of Yetar there, right? If you didn't have a Hellfire amulet, but because I'm using a Hellfire, I then use Guardian's Path for extra dodge, and that stacks with my dash, it stacks with my agility, and it gives me even more dodge. This is a huge defensive boost versus crazy density maps. So those really, really juiced up GG maps, it gives you insane survivability. Obviously, it just gives you survivability versus default, like wide attacks. It does work against a couple of the affixes. But if you were looking for elite, so if you're getting killed by, magic affixes more than you are getting killed by straight density, then you want to go Sixth Sense instead. But I prefer Guardian's Path. And obviously, if you're completely ballsy and you want to go more damage, you can use like Momentum or Determination. And remember, you can snapshot those into your EP. So it's really, really powerful. Otherwise, I'll just quickly tell you a little quick trick. If you're about to blast so say you've just been doing Great Rifts and then you run out of keystones and you want to just quickly do some speed runs, a really, really quick trick to make this build go from basically a Great Rift build into a speed build is you just equip an Ingium. You just go boom. You can have, it doesn't matter, Lion's Claw, Fist of Az. They're both very similar. They have their ups and downs. Fist of Az is probably slightly preferred in a group, whereas Lion's Claw is probably slightly preferred solo. Obviously, Fist of Az gives you bigger on-death explosions, so if your allies detonate the EPs, they're going to go for more, whereas this is going to give you twice the amount of EP detonations, so it's more consistent. But I prefer to go to Fist of Az, Ingium, and then basically, as long as you keep killing elite packs, you can dash wherever. But in Greater Rifts, Lion's Claw for sure. So as far as legendary gems go, we are using Gyoguk of Swiftness. This gives us 15% attack speed, and more importantly, 15% cooldown reduction. That cooldown reduction is straight damage output. The more CDR we have, the more we can spam 7-sided strike, and the more damage we deal. On top of that, the attack speed does help us, get our auto attacks out faster, which means we have a smaller window to die in, basically, which is kind of nice. Bane of the Trapped, it's multiplicative damage. So right here, mine's level 86. It gives me 40.8% damage bonus. It's huge. Leveling this gem up is your priority. It gives you the most damage throughout the rift. The secondary procs to primary, so everything within 15 yards of you is just taking 40% more damage. And obviously your Templar is also using, I'm using a Thunder Fury, that slows mobs, so that procs my Bane of the Trapped. He's using a Esa Johan, that slows mobs, it procs my Bane of the Trapped. So there's multiple sources that are slowing, not just, the secondary. And then we're using Bane of the Stricken. This gem here is very, very powerful. It can theoretically be swapped out for something like an Ice Blink or something in Greater Rifts, and then you could snapshot a Power Pylon on the Rift Guardian. It's a viable choice. It means you can kill Rift Guardians really quickly and then clear the Rift also quite fast. But if you want, for the most consistent Rifts, I prefer to use just Bane of the Stricken. It just means it takes any boss kill from like a 6-minute fight to like a 2-minute fight. It's really, really powerful. Saves you a lot of time. Really, really good gem. As far as Paragon points go, you want to cap out your movement speed. So assuming you're correctly optimized, you should have 0 movement speed on your gear. So all you do is you just go all into movement speed, and then you want to go the rest into dexterity. Simple as that. Offense, you're going to want cooldown reduction first, then you're going to want to get crit hit. Generally, it's going to be crit hit chance, because you're going to have a lot of crit damage from your weapons. And then you want to go crit damage, and then attack speed. Attack speed's not really that huge, so yeah. The main Paragons here, it's up to Paragon 600, and then 800 is just nice. As far as defensive bonuses go, you want to go All Resist first, then you want to go Armor, then you want to go Life Regen, then you want to go Life Percent as far as defensive boosts go. As far as utility points go, Area Damage is currently bugged out with Uliana's build. They're going to fix it next season, so don't expect to fix anytime soon, but it still does give you a very small damage bonus. So yeah, area damage is still priority, followed by life on hit for survivability, followed by resource cost reduction, and then gold fine. And that covers it. We've covered everything. If you guys are lost on anything, I'm also going to have a written guide down below, as usual, the Diablo Fans Guide, so you guys can go check that out if you're confused and you don't know. And I will also keep that guide up to date, so whenever there's like slight meta changes, slight build variation changes, I'll always be updating the you know, the Diablo Fans Guide first, and then when there's been enough changes to warrant an update to the guide like we're doing right now, I'll make a new video. So remember. But otherwise, guys, thank you for watching, and until next time, peace the hell out. Hopefully you have a good day, and I'll see you guys later.